Hey everybody, this is Keith here of Euphoria Pictures. Welcome back to my channel. Right, so here we go, another top 10 video, and this is going to be my top 10 must-own horror movies on 4K. Now, I've been wanting to do this top 10 for a long time, since I actually started doing top 10 videos. And the only reason why I didn't do it is because I knew it was going to be a pain in the ass to try and put this top 10 together. Now, you have to understand, the way I'm doing this top 10 is, it's going to have to be 10 movies that I love, but they also have to have fantastic 4K transfers. So if there is a movie out there that I absolutely adore and the 4K transfer is not that great, it is not making this top 10. So I spent around nearly an hour going through my 4K collection. I found 10 movies and I'm very satisfied with this top 10. Now I have to put this across, this is my top 10. You might not agree with some of the movies that I have in this top 10, but the one thing I think you will agree with is the 4K transfers on all 10 of these movies. They do look absolutely remarkable. And like I said, I'm very happy with what I come up with. Right, so let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. Okay, up first we have got Sam Raimi's Evil Dead. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. You know, I'm doing a top 10 of my favourite 4K horror movies, and I've started with a movie that was shot in 16mm. In my eyes, this is the way 16mm movies should look on 4K. I honestly couldn't believe what I was looking at. I had this Blu-ray, this movie on Blu-ray so many times with so many different masters, and the Blu-ray for the most part actually looked great. And I honestly didn't think they could improve on the Blu-rays, because The Evil Dead is a very dirty looking movie. It has to be said, but my god, when I seen this on 4K for the first time. Now granted, it does have an aspect ratio of 1:33:1, so that means that the black bars are going to be on the left and right hand side of the screen. And I wasn't a big fan of that aspect ratio, if I'm being completely honest, but when I seen this, I have to admit, I honestly did not care. The movie is pin sharp. It really is. For a movie like Evil Dead to be as sharp as it actually is an absolute sight to behold. And I think there is Dolby Vision on this as well. And the colours are, I won't say they're not too aggressive, the Dolby Vision, but I have to admit, when you do see some of the blood in this movie, it really does kind of pop off the screen now, and it just makes all them scenes that little bit more hideous to look at. So yes folks, there you go, that is Evil Dead. What a phenomenal movie, and that is my number 10. Right, so here we go on to number 9, and this is going to be my one 2K upscale movie in this top 10. The rest of them are all native 4K discs. So here we go, we have got Hellfest. Now, I've spoken so many times about this movie, and there was no way that I was not going to be able to do a top 10 horror movie list and not have Hellfest in it. You just have to understand with me when it comes to horror movies, I love Halloween themed movies, and this film has a real nostalgic feeling. It's almost like a throwback, I feel, to kind of old Halloween movies. And the setting of this movie is absolutely key. It's in a theme park, kind of a horror theme park. 5 friends or 6 friends go to this theme park, and they are being stalked by this chap here on the cover. And it's one of them movies, it's a real kind of slow burn, kind of stalker movie, kind of like what Halloween was. And I do love that, because they kind of build the characters up in this movie, and I do, for the most part, I actually like the cast of this movie. The 6 characters, there's a lot of chemistry between the 6 of them. It can clearly be seen, and you start caring for their inevitable deaths when they do start happening in this movie. And yeah, it really is such a joy of a movie. And again, if you are big into your kind of Halloween themed movies, you really need to check out Hellfest. And if you're going to check out Hellfest, check it out on 4K. Folks, I'm not kidding you, for a 2K upscale, this is one of the most extraordinary looking pictures you will ever see. It's definitely the most colourful horror movie you will ever see, because when they go to this theme park, you have every colour you could think of, and it can be seen, and the Dolby Vision just delivers it. It looks absolutely extraordinary, but the fine detail as well is it's up there with some of the finest you will see. And yeah, again, I can't praise this movie enough. So yeah, that is my number 9 pick. That is Hellfest. Right, so on to number 8 we go, and we have got Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. This is one of them movies, when I first heard about this being announced on 4K, I was one of them people, I was kind of going, how can a black and white movie benefit from a 4K transfer? And it's only when I got this movie and I actually knocked it on. Yes, there is massive benefits to be seen, especially on a black and white movie, especially if it's done right. And I have to admit, the HDR is absolutely quite remarkable. I know, HDR on a black and white movie, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, folks, but I can promise you that as soon as you do knock on Psycho, it will make all the sense in the world. It is quite remarkable, and when you see that opening sequence, when it's kind of the camera's panning around and it's going to the apartment, the Janet Leigh's apartment, some of the fine detail that you can see on the brickwork of the building is, you just knew you were going to get something quite remarkable. The movie, I honestly think, it actually looks like it was shot today, but it's just in black and white as well. So yeah, that is my number 8 pick, Psycho, and look, I don't have to talk about the movie. It's an absolute masterpiece. So yeah, that is my number 8 pick, Psycho. Right, so on to number 7, and we have got Lamberto Bava's Demons. Now, I've said this numerous times on streams before, but this movie scared the living shit out of me when I was younger. Even now when I'm watching it, I do feel very uncomfortable sometimes watching it. And it's down to kind of the setting of this movie. I kind of always, every time I watch the movie, I always put myself in their situation. And it just kind of frightens me. I don't know what it is about it, but it just leaves me very uncomfortable. But yeah, it's held in an old cinema where the cast of this movie are going to see a free showing of a movie. And it's a movie about demons, and little did they know what's happening on the screen is actually coming to reality in this movie theatre. And of course, they had to try and survive and get out of this movie theatre. It's a great movie. It's one of probably my favourite Italian horror movie. And, you know, to have Lamberto Bava behind it, and of course Dario Argento as well, I thought they'd done a remarkable job on it. As for the picture quality, this film looks absolutely extraordinary on 4K. Again, another one of them movies, when you see Italian, kind of old Italian horror movies, you kind of think that they kind of hit their limits when it comes to Blu-ray. But when you see this movie on 4K, the first thing you will notice is how clean the image looks. They really did clean the print on it. It looks absolutely immaculate. It is incredibly sharp. There is an incredible amount of detail. And again, the Dolby Vision, some of the colours in this movie, because you see a lot of reds and I think you see a lot of greens or blues or something like that. And yeah, that Dolby Vision enhances them colours so much more now. And yeah, I can't praise the movie enough. So yeah, that is going to be my number 7 pick. You got Demons. Right, so on to number 6 we go, and we have got Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. I know a lot of people out there, you know, it's one of them movies, it's loved by a lot of people, even though it was critically slammed when it first came out. Thankfully, it's found a rightful cult following. But at the time, I think, and even now, I think people are just a little bit sour about the movie because it's not what you call a true adaptation of the Stephen King novel. Yeah, so they made a lot of changes in this movie. But I have to admit, some of the changes that he made in this movie was for the better. And it really is an absolute remarkable movie. And Jack Nicholson in this movie, look, I don't have to talk about Jack Nicholson. Everything he's in is absolute golden. And he is frightening in this movie. The Overlook Hotel, I think, is the star of the show. What a remarkable setting. And I have to admit, folks, when you do see this movie on 4K, and it is a director's cut as well on this version, right from the opening sequence, when you see them driving up to the Overlook Hotel, some of the fine detail is absolutely remarkable. And I always notice that when you look at when you're watching an older movie on 4K and the credits are actually coming up, sometimes the picture can look a bit soft, and I think it's something to do with two elements colliding, something like that, and that's why you get a soft picture. But not on this. When the opening credits are coming up, the picture is absolutely pin sharp, and I honestly can't praise the picture enough, and I can't praise the movie enough. So yeah, that is my number 6 pick. That is The Shining. Right, so on to number 5 we go, and we have got Ridley Scott's Alien. Now, I have to tell you, folks, that if you have an OLED TV out there, this is an absolute must for your collection. The blacks in this look absolutely extraordinary on an OLED TV. It just can't be matched in my opinion. The shadow detail as well across the board looks remarkable. There is so much fine detail to be seen as well, and HDR really does enhance this movie. But it's not one of those movies where it's just, oh, the HDR enhances it. Trust me folks, the 4K resolution is there and it's there to be seen. There's not one single soft shot to be seen in this movie, and if you're a fan of this, you need to see this on 4K. It really is a sight to behold. And the only reason why it's not a little bit higher on this list, because I honestly think it's one of the best transfers you can see out there on a horror movie. But I just found that the movies that I have ahead of this are better movies in my eyes, and they all have very, very close transfers to this one. Probably might not be as good, but very, very close, I have to tell you. So yeah, that is my number 5 pick. That is Alien. Right, so on to number 4 we go, and this is going to surprise a lot of people, especially people that know me. It is going to be Halloween 2. Yes, I'm not putting Halloween into this list. I said it before, I've said it in all my top 10s. When I do these top 10s, it's only one movie per franchise. And the only reason to why Halloween is not in this top 10 is because when I first seen Halloween on 4K, I was a little underwhelmed by it. I thought that the Blu-ray that they brought out, I think it was the 30th anniversary, it might have been the 35th or something like that. I thought they'd done such an absolute remarkable job on that Blu-ray that there was little room for improvement over it. Now don't get me wrong, the 4K does look great. Especially if you see the recent Scream Factory when they brought that out. They kind of up the colours a little bit on it. It doesn't seem as dull as it used to. But I felt that I had to be true to this top 10. And when I seen this one on 4K, I was absolutely blown away by it. Now, you have to understand with me as well, Halloween 2, I regard it as just as high as I regard Halloween. Halloween is one of my favourite movies of all time. Halloween 2 is right there with it. I can't watch Halloween and not watch Halloween 2. They go hand in hand with me. And the picture quality in this movie is quite remarkable. The things that the improvements that they made over the previous Universal version is quite amazing. And the first thing you will notice is the picture is so clean now. There is no more film dirt, and there was a lot of it on the Universal release. But the Dolby Vision looks absolutely remarkable, even on the darkest of scenes when you see Michael Myers walking around at the start of the movie. When you see just right after the first movie ends, and you see him walking around the apartments or whatever you're going to call them, the houses, you can just see so much incredible colour in the greenery and the bushes and all that. The black levels look absolutely amazing, and it's pin sharp. It really, really is. So yeah, that is going to be my number 4 pick. That is Halloween 2, and I know that's going to surprise a few people. Right, so here we go, we're getting down to the nitty gritty now. So number 3, my first John Carpenter movie in this top 10. So we've got The Thing. I remember when this first came out on 4K, I was actually checking out reviews, and some of the reviews were very, they weren't really optimistic on the 4K transfer. I couldn't believe it, because the Blu-ray looks so good, particularly the Arrow Video one. So I think what people were complaining about was it just wasn't much of a change over the Arrow release. So I was a little heartbroken about that, but until I got it in my own hands and I checked it out for myself, and I honestly think, in my eyes, they couldn't be more wrong. This looks absolutely remarkable in 4K. Again, the Dolby Vision really does enhance this, and it's down to the blacks you see and a lot of the whites. Of course, you know, it's held in Antarctica. You want your whites looking spot on in this movie, and they do look quite remarkable. But there is an incredible amount as well of fine detail. And when you do see that scene in the dog pen, when all hell breaks loose, some of the detail that you can see now is quite remarkable. And especially when you see the scene when they're doing the autopsy on one of the dogs after that scene. That scene I felt was always disgusting, and now it's even more disgusting because there's so much fine detail, and the Dolby Vision all together just combines this one absolutely grotesque looking scene. As for the movie itself, it's an absolute John Carpenter classic. I can't stress how much I love this movie. It's another one of those go-to Halloween movies for me. You know, one of those who's doing it sort of movies, and it is incredibly eerie. And John Carpenter captured that eeriness so beautifully in this movie. So yeah, that is my number 3 pick. That is The Thing. Right, so here we go on to number 2, and you can't put a top 10 horror list together and not throw in George A. Romero. And of course, we have got the greatest zombie movie ever made, Dawn of the Dead. I never witnessed a franchise like these Dead movies, especially the first 3 movies. They are so close to each other. Night of the Living Dead is an absolute classic. Do anything to see that on 4K. Day of the Dead, the sequel to this one, the follow-up to this one, in my opinion, it comes very close to this one. It really, really does. And we desperately need a 4K transfer for that one. But this is how you make a zombie movie. I honestly can't praise it enough. Some of the work that Tom Savini does in this movie, some of the zombies, some of the effect shots look absolutely remarkable. They were so ahead of their time. And yeah, Tom Savini was just as much credited for this movie as George Romero was for directing it. In my opinion, I thought he did both of them just done something truly remarkable when it comes to a zombie movie. Second Sight's transfer on this is again, it's just out. It's one of the best you'll ever see. This movie is never going to look any better than it does now. I don't care if there's going to be, you know, you have 8K, 12K, 15K, okay, I don't care. There's not going to look any better than what you see here. The Dolby Vision is beautiful. It's not overly aggressive. It is very natural looking. And all of a sudden, I have to admit, and there's one thing that I really do appreciate in this one when you do watch it. And again, the Dolby Vision is the thank for this. I always found, I remember when I used to watch Dawn of the Dead, some of the blood in it looked very pink looking. Thankfully, that is all gone now. It looks natural. It looks like blood. And yeah, I can't praise the picture enough, folks. So if you are a fan of George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, you need to own this on 4K. And that's my number 2 pick. Right, so here we go, number 1, and this was always going to be number 1 in my eyes, and it is John Carpenter's The Fog. Now, I am actually doing a video. I have a video planned where I'm actually going to do a comparison video for this one, and I'm going to be comparing it to the Optimum release that we got on Blu-ray. And I have actually recorded the footage of the comparisons. Now, I'm not going to show it in this video because I want to save it for that video. But I have to tell you, folks, when you see the difference, it truly is night and day. I knew it was when I first seen this, but it's only when I put them side by side that I realised how much of a difference there is. All across the board, whether it's fine detail, whether it is the blacks, whether it's the colours, everything you can think of, it has just surpassed the previous Blu-ray. And as for the movie itself, look, I know John Carpenter was not a big fan of it, and maybe it's because of all the reshoots that he had to do in it. And then when you do hear about some of the scenes that actually weren't in this movie on the original cut, you'd be quite frightened by it. God knows what that movie must have been like on its first showing. I say it was quite poor, and thankfully he did do his reshoots. But apparently directors don't like reshooting, and yeah, I can't really blame them. And maybe that's why it's down low on John Carpenter's list. For me, it is absolutely extraordinary, and I have to admit that it's the soundtrack of this movie, John Carpenter's music in it, really does carry this movie along perfectly. It just sets the tone so well. And yeah, I honestly can't praise it enough. The cast is just quite remarkable. So that is my number 1 pick, folks. That is The Fog, and that is my top 10. So as per usual, if you did like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you could leave a comment down below, and please do share your thoughts on some of these movies and what do you think of them, and would you have them in your top 10? And yeah, I hope to see you all again real soon with my next video. Until then, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.